Hello, friends, and welcome to a new film recap. The film depicts a government policy allowing citizens to kill immigrants for just one day each year as a way to relieve societal pressure, but things spiral completely out of control. What happens next? Let's find out. The movie starts in Mexico, with a guy named Juan who's trying to cross into America with his girlfriend, Dahlia. At that time, Mexico was ruled by gangs who would kill anyone that didn't follow their orders. These gangs forced them to leave the country, or be killed. Because of these threats, they decided to escape to the US, along with a large group of people also running from the same danger. Since they didn't have any money, they had no choice but to cross the border illegally. It was a huge risk. They'd either make it or die trying. Juan made a deal with some smugglers at the border to get him and Dahlia across. When they reached the border, they went down into an underground tunnel to pass from Mexico into the US, and the one leading them was just a little kid. Even though they were scared and unsure of him, they had no other option. As they walked through the tunnel, the little boy suddenly disappeared. They called out for him, but he didn't answer. He stayed completely silent. They searched the tunnel until they found him again, and he kept leading them to the end. Once they made it out, the boy told them, "If you get lost, just look for the red flowers." That was a trick used by Mexicans to mark safe places. They painted special symbols on walls so that anyone lost could follow them to safety. Eventually, Juan and Dahlia made it to America and started a new life. Dahlia chose to forget everything about her past in Mexico and start fresh, like she'd just been born. As soon as they arrived, she applied for a job at a big restaurant and got hired quickly because she was a talented cook. The restaurant owner, Idris, trusted her and started teaching her everything so she could eventually manage the place. Juan, on the other hand, got a job at a horse stable because he loved horses and knew how to train them. In no time, he earned the trust of the owner, Tuchel, thanks to his skills. Tuchel started relying on him to handle all the wild horses that no one else could manage. But this made the other workers jealous, especially one named Craig, who hated Juan and couldn't wait to see him leave. Craig influenced Tuchel's son, Dylan, to hate Juan too. Dylan would constantly provoke him, trying to get him to fight so he'd get fired. But Juan always kept his cool. He didn't want to go back to the poverty he left behind. 10 months later, Dylan was trying to tame a horse, but it kicked him and knocked him to the ground. Tuchel called Juan to calm the horse down, and Juan did it easily, even getting it to lie down. Dylan was embarrassed that he couldn't handle the horse like Juan did, and it made him even more determined to push Juan out of the job. At the end of the day, we see Dahlia at work. She's now the restaurant manager. Idris relies on her completely and treats her like a sister. The next day, Juan heads to the stable and runs into Dylan, who tells him he found Juan's rope on the ground and warns him that if he's late to work again, he'll be fired. It's clear this was a setup by Dylan and Craig to get Juan kicked out, but Juan stays calm again. This job had given him a second chance at life after nearly dying in Mexico. That day, we learn it's the secondary purge day in the US. A day when the government allows native citizens to kill immigrants so that only Americans remain alive. Anyone else can be killed. The purge lasts 12 hours and happens once a year. When the 12 hours are up, life goes back to normal. But this year, things are different. Terrorist gangs across America decided they wouldn't stop after 12 hours. They wanted to keep killing as many immigrants as possible and weren't following the government's rules anymore. Back at the stable, Tuchel hands out cash to the workers, telling them to buy weapons to protect themselves in case the purgers attack. But Craig decides to join the purgers instead and help kill immigrants. When Tuchel gives Juan his money, Juan complains about Dylan. He tells him Dylan hates him and wants him gone just because he's Mexican, and Dylan hates anyone who's not American. Tuchel gets upset about his son's behavior and tells Juan he doesn't want to hurt him. Dylan just envies him for being so good at handling horses. Then Tuchel walks off. Juan rushes home to hide with Dahlia. Meanwhile, Dahlia has already arranged with her friend, Titi, to move them to a safe place. At the same time, Tuchel and his son Dylan are hiding out at their home. Dylan locks all the doors and windows to protect the family from the purgers, who'll kill anyone in their way, even those who don't take part in the killings. Dylan watches the home's security cameras closely because the purge has officially started, and now we see groups surrounding the house. He rushes to the weapons storage, and when he gets there, he hears a strange sound. He can't quite figure out what it is at first, but it turns out to be the generator. He quickly gathers all the weapons to head back to the main room. Suddenly, someone opens the storage door, and he's just about to shoot, until he realizes it's his wife, Cassie. He lowers the weapon and leaves with her to go back home. Meanwhile, Juan and Dahlia are hiding out in a house on the edge of the city. Titi tells them that every year he pays people to protect that house so he can hide there safely. While they're hiding, Dahlia goes up to the roof to get some fresh air. As she's looking out, she sees the purgers' vehicles drive by and watches them torturing and killing immigrants. She wants to help, but there's nothing she can do. If she fires a shot, they'll kill her and everyone she's with. So she quickly goes back inside to hide again. We then see Americans out in the streets, killing immigrants without mercy. No one is safe. Anyone they see gets gunned down. Dead bodies are everywhere. Once the clock hits midnight, the purge officially ends. The government steps in to clean up the streets and collect the bodies for burial. Life slowly returns to normal. At this point, Dahlia heads to the restaurant where she works. When she gets there, she finds a sheep locked in a metal cage. She wants to free it, but it turns out to be a trap, and she gets locked up too. Turns out, her coworkers are actually purgers, and they're continuing the purge to finish off the remaining immigrants. Dahlia is left trapped in the cage, about to be killed by them. But suddenly Idris shows up and defends her. Together, they manage to kill 2 of the purgers, saving her life. He breaks her out of the cage. Just then, the police arrive and tell them that the purge is over, and what they've just done is now considered a crime. They're both going to be arrested. Idris tries to explain they were just defending themselves, but the officer doesn't believe him and arrests them anyway. On their way to jail, purgers are still on a killing spree. They ambush the police car and flip it over. One of the attackers goes after Dahlia, trying to kill her, but Idris fights him off and strangles him to death to protect her. He knows that if they step out of the car, the purgers will kill them instantly. Meanwhile, Juan and Titi arrive at the stables. They notice that the area is unusually quiet, and all the horses are running out. When they get out of the car, they see purgers have captured Dylan and his family. Craig is leading this group of purgers, and he's decided to kill Dylan and his family because he hates the rich. He tells Dylan to exchange his family's life for money. If he doesn't pay, they die. But Dylan doesn't have the money. Tuchel spots Juan at the stables and tries to distract Craig, hoping to give Juan a chance to attack. But Craig loses his temper over Tuchel's words, and ends up killing him. The moment Tuchel dies, Juan charges in with Titi. They take down the entire group and rescue Dylan and his family. They know the other purgers will come after them soon, so they jump in the car and drive as far away from the stables as they can. On the road, Titi's sister, Harper, tells them they should help Juan find his girlfriend and save her, just like he saved them. So Juan goes to find Dahlia, learns where she is, and they all head out to rescue her. When they reach the police car, they take out the purgers surrounding it, and pull Dahlia and Idris out just in time. But Idris refuses to leave. He wants to go back and save his mother. While escaping, they come across a supermarket and go in to look for food. Everyone inside has been killed, so they gather whatever supplies they can. Harper finds a mask marked with the purger's symbol and decides to keep it. Titi finds a radio that broadcasts news saying that Mexico will open its borders for 6 hours. They all agree to head to Mexico and stay there until things calm down. They keep driving toward the border, hoping to get there before the purgers catch them. Hours pass, night falls, and they get closer to the Mexican border. On the way, they see purgers killing anyone who tries to cross. Dylan tries to speed past them in the car, but the purgers give chase and open fire. The group jumps out and fights back. Harper remembers the purger mask she found that morning at the gas station, and shows it to the attackers, tricking them into thinking they're part of the same group. The purgers believe them and back off, leaving their car alone. The group continues heading toward the border until they reach a city nearby. But they can't drive through because the purgers have taken over the city and blocked all the streets. They're forced to abandon the car and move on foot, sneaking from place to place to avoid detection. Eventually, they reach a city theater. Dahlia and Cassie go inside to hide, while Juan, Dylan, TT, and Harper stay outside to secure the area. At the same time, the military rolls in, trying to restore order and stop the purgers. But the armed groups start killing soldiers too. They tell the troops they won't stop until America is free. They see immigrants as invaders who need to be kicked out or killed. That's their entire purpose behind the purge. To fight back, the army brings in tanks and starts launching rockets to wipe out the purgers. One of the rockets hits the theater, knocking Dylan and Juan to the ground. When they regain consciousness, they realize the theater doors are locked. They can't get inside. Juan tells Dahlia he'll try to reach her through the back door. Inside the theater, Dahlia is surrounded by bodies and wants desperately to escape. 2 purgers attack her, but she kills them. As she moves through the building, she spots a drawing of a flower on the wall. She recognizes it as a signal left by Mexicans to mark safe routes. She follows the flower drawings until she reaches a safe place where other survivors are gathered, all running from the purge. At that moment, Juan and the others arrive to try sneaking around through the back door. On their way, they run into a purger group called Alpha. The leader tells them he's going to kill all 4 of them, but gives them one option. If Dylan and Harper kill the other 2, they'll be allowed to live. But they refuse, saying none of them are going to die. Suddenly, the leader's daughter attacks TT and kills him. Just then, the military shows up. During the shootout, Juan grabs a gun and shoots the leader's daughter to avenge his friend TT. He and the others manage to escape and start following the flower symbols again until they finally reach the hideout where Dahlia and Cassie are. But by that time, Mexico has officially closed its borders, meaning there's no way they can escape the US. The woman hiding them tells them there's only one way left to cross into Mexico, the mountains. And there's only one person who can help them. His name is Tiago. He's the chief of a tribe that lives along the border and knows how to cross between the US and Mexico using the mountain paths. Tiago brings his truck, and everyone jumps in to make their escape. While driving, they spot the Alpha group chasing after them. They decide to split up. One team will head straight for Mexico, while the other will distract the purgers. Juan and Dahlia stay back to hold off the attackers because the Alpha group is targeting Juan. They want revenge for their leader's daughter. Tiago gives Juan directions to the path that leads to Mexico and stays with him to fight the Alpha group. Meanwhile, Harper and Cassie successfully cross the border and make it to Mexico. There, they find refugee camps and even a hospital for immigrants. Cassie goes straight to the hospital because she's about to give birth. She delivers a beautiful baby girl but doesn't name her yet. She wants to wait until her husband comes back and she knows he's alive. Back on the mountain, we see Tiago's assistant standing at the top, and as the Alpha group approaches, he starts launching flaming arrows to blow up their vehicles. Juan and the others start shooting as well, taking down many purgers. But they soon run out of bullets, so they hide in a small hut in the desert. Suddenly, they hear the purgers circling the hut. One of the Alpha members crashes his motorcycle through the door, knocking Cassie unconscious. He tries to run over Juan, but Dylan hits him on the head with a heavy object. Juan tries to fight him off, but the guy is too strong. He grabs Juan by the hair and drags him toward the bike's wheel to kill him. At that moment, Dahlia wakes up, grabs a gun from the ground, and tries to focus, though her vision is blurry from the blow. She takes a shot and hits the guy, saving Juan. Suddenly, the window behind her shatters and the Alpha leader drags her outside. He threatens to kill her unless Juan surrenders. Juan and Dylan run out to rescue her and take down the Alpha leader. Juan climbs up the mountain and throws a rope around the leader's neck, pulling him away from Dahlia. Then Dylan shows up and ties the leader's hands, forcing him to drop his gun. The 2 of them take him down, and Juan finishes him off. After that, they continue their journey and finally cross into Mexico, safe and alive. Later, we see Dylan searching for Cassie at the hospital. He finds her and sees his daughter for the first time. He's filled with joy and pride, telling Cassie they're going to start a new life in Mexico until things get better back home. He thanks Juan for everything he's done. But Juan feels sad. He and Dahlia have ended up back in Mexico, the very place they once ran away from. But he realizes that fate wanted them back there. And just because you leave your homeland doesn't mean you'll find paradise waiting on the other side. And that's how the movie ends. If you like the movie, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the channel.